Welcome to another JSWIFT tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll be looking at the JACRA Import Release using JSWIFT. Now, for this tutorial, we'll be going through some key points. We will be learning how to apply for an import release for a JACRA only regulated commodity. We will also look at the steps in applying for an import release for commodities that are regulated by both plant quarantine and JACRA. We'll also take you into the process type that the trader should choose when they are using either of these import options. Now, the first thing is that the trader must be logged into the system. So let's log in. So the trader logging in at this point is Mary Jones. Enter your username and password. Once you have logged into this system, your next step is to navigate to the dashboard. Here we see the list of menu options. We are doing a permit document, so we select permit and the option is new. Now please note that the regime type identifies the type of application that you are currently doing. The import release is done using an import regime type. Now there are 4 pages that are available in the system that the trader must complete. The first is the general information page. The second, the item details page. The third, the attachments page. And the fourth is the fees page. Now let's continue. The general information page captures the details about the importer. It will capture the process region, that is where the government office is located, who the applicant is. It will capture who the importer is and the exporter of the goods as well. Let's go through our first step. As said before, the process region is the location of the government office that will be processing this application. Now we're doing a JACRA import release, so the option is Kingston. So the JACRA office that will be processing this application is Kingston. It's in Kingston. The next thing is that, is this an application for myself, which is personal, or am I doing it on behalf of a company that I am representing? Now, if you're doing it on behalf of a company that you're representing, you would select applicant here, and then you would see the listing of all the companies that you're either associated with as an owner or entity chief, or as an employee. Now, if you select the box, select an applicant, and there are no options available, it means that you may have missed a step. So if you're associated with a company or business, close the application and go ahead and do your entity services registration. Now, once you have already done that, then you will see the options available. Now, see tutorial video on registration as an entity chief and registration as an employee. And all these are available in our e-learning platform on Moodle. So my company that I'm representing is Manufacturers Plant Products. I select that company. Let's continue. The next thing is the contact details. Now, you must enter your most current information in this section. Your name, your contact number, which is a number that the JACRA officer can reach you in the event there is an issue or clarity is required, and your email address. If you're representing your organization, you would most definitely choose to use your work email, and for personal, your personal email. Now, if you notice as well, the importer box is set. However, please note that if you are an agent representing a company, then you must first do your agent service relationship. Now, that will allow you to be able to select the company that you are representing from the list of options or TRN available. If you're representing a company and you are not seeing the option to select that company's name, then you need to close the application and do your agent services registration. The tutorial video for this is in e-learning as well. Once you have already set up your agent relationship, then you will see the option to choose that company that you are representing. So you'd have applicant as your company and the importer as the company that must appear on that import release document. The next step from there is to enter the exporter details. Once you have entered the exporter details, international, then you would have completed all the required information on the general information page. Now, if you would have observed earlier, you would have seen that there are some boxes that are in gray and some that are clear. Now, the gray boxes are autofilled by data in the system or populated by information that the system is configured to input. What does that mean? I did not enter any information in the registration date box and reference because the system will populate that information. Once I selected my company, automatically the system populated my TRN, name and address. Where did this information come from? This information would have come from the data available concerning yourself and your company that you had registered earlier. Please note if there is an error or you notice that there are any discrepancies with the information displayed, then you will need to contact the JSWIFT office to resolve such. Let's continue. We have captured our importer and exporter details and also our applicant details. Let's go to next. The next page is our item details page. The item details page would capture the details about the commodity that is being imported. Now, before we're able to do that, we must first identify the process type. Now, what is the process type? The process type guides the system in triggering the fees that may be payable or not payable, the mandatory documents that should be attached, and also the agency that this application should be routed to. Now, once you click process type, you would have observed two process types. One that says Agricultural Commodity Import Release Permit and another that says Agricultural Commodity Plant Import Release. Now, both of these import options involve JACRA. The first, which is Agricultural Commodity Import Release Permit, would be an application that would be processed by JACRA only. So it means that all the commodities that are regulated by JACRA alone would have been processed using this process type. However, there are some commodities that are regulated by JACRA. However, these commodities require a plant import permit in order for processing to begin. For those commodities that are regulated by both JACRA and plant quarantine, you must select the option Agricultural Commodity Plant Import Permit. Now let's recap. Agricultural Commodity Import Release Permit are for commodities that are regulated by JACRA only. Say for instance, I'm importing chocolate bars with coconut, shredded coconut. This because of the shredded coconut, right? Or maybe cocoa that may be in this chocolate bar, then this commodity would require regulation by JACRA. Now, for those commodities, Agricultural Commodity Import Release Permit, because you would not have required an import release from any other agency, just JACRA only. So, what if it's a commodity that is plant-based, maybe a spice that is regulated by both plant quarantine and JACRA? In those cases, you'd require a plant import permit prior to the goods being shipped and a JACRA release once the goods get here. Now we have the options. In this video, we'll be observing, or we'll be going through the process of goods that are being processed for JACRA import release only. So I will select the option Agricultural Commodity Import Release Permit, and these are for commodities regulated by JACRA only. Now please note that this process involves the customs release. So the Agricultural Commodity Import Release looks at the processing of the JSWIFT application with a view to grant permission for customs release of a JACRA regulated commodity. All right, so we're going to look at that first. And this video will cover that treatment, the release of the commodity by JACRA given to the customer so that customs can release the commodity at the port. Now please note that there is a process that precedes this where the customer would have gotten their quantities. This video will not be looking at the allotment of quantities. For that, the trader will need to contact JACRA. However, this video will focus on after you have received your allotment, accessing the system and applying for your release for that invoice commodity that is now present at the port. Now, to identify the commodity to be imported, we select the option Search, and if you observe, the commodities that are listed here are commodities that are regulated by JACRA. So we're going to be selecting castor oil. So we'll say that on my invoice I have castor oil and sesame oil. I'll be entering my two commodities, and I'll first begin with castor oil. Now remember the search option. You can both search by HS code or a keyword. If you know the tariff, you type the tariff in and search. If you do not know the tariff and you may have the description, you can enter as well. But please note that for the description, it will only generate a result if the exact description or portion of that description or keyword appears in the tariff. So I chose castor oil. Commercial description. Now it is very important that the commercial description is clearly explained, right, or documented. We recommend that you identify the commercial description first. The reason is that the description at times in the tariff may not be as clear. It may say other or something else, or give a category or group name for commodities. So in your commercial description, you're able to identify the specific name of the commodity as it appears on the invoice. Your next step from there is to identify the quantities of that commodity. So we will enter the quantities, right? So it is 12 by 1 liter. That's the quantity. That's the amount of castor oil that you can find in each package. What's the number of packages? On my invoice, I have 100. What's the country of origin? That's the country where the goods are coming from or originated. Our next step is to identify package type. So number of packages, we identify that. Package type, what is the total number of this package type that we have present? So we have 100 boxes of castor oil. What's the quantity? And please pay close attention to the statistical value, because the statistical value will guide you into identifying what exactly you are taking in, one, and also what unit of measurement you should place the values for in the box provided. So if this section is tariff driven, and it will identify the unit of measurement as said before, and you only need to enter the values for that unit of measurement. Delivery terms, and the delivery terms would be identified on your invoice. Item value, currency, you enter that based on what is on your invoice. Supplier, who is the supplier? Who is on the invoice? Who is that company or individual on the invoice as a supplier? Now, it may or may not be the same as your exporter, but whatever the information is, whatever is correct, you enter that. So if it is the same as your exporter, you enter that information. If it is not the same, then whatever is correct, you enter that information on the document. So I'm entering all the details for the address, and this information you can find also on your invoice. Now, this is very important. When you have entered the details for the commodity being imported, you must select the option Add Commodity. If you do not select the option Add Commodity, then the details will not be added to the page. Our next step is to add the second commodity. Now you can either add the second commodity by selecting Add New. By selecting Add New, you will get a new page, and it will allow you to enter your second commodity. However, there are other options available for inputting data. The duplicate function allows you to replicate the existing line, and you are also able to edit the boxes that may not be the same. Now you will choose to use Add New or Duplicate depending on how similar the information on the invoice being used should be represented. So if you have this commodity that the supplier is the same and the general information basically is the same, then you can use duplicate. If the supplier is different, then you can just add new and continue to enter your details. Now this invoice that I am using to prepare this application is basically the same. So the sesame oil and the castor oil, both items are on the invoice. So we are going to just use the option duplicate and then use edit to change the information that is not the same. So what if we are taking in 10 packages of sesame oil. We search. Remember, we can search by tariff or keyword. So we can, if you have the tariff, you can enter it. I am going to use a keyword to find. So sesame oil, and we just adjust whatever needs to be adjusted. So the values need to be adjusted. Let's scroll down, and the currency type remains same. So we edit what needs to be edited. We remember to edit the commercial description, quantity, and values. When you're finished, you select Save Changes. That's if you had used the edit option, and close. Here we have our 2 commodities being entered. The next step is to upload the supporting documents. Now, these are supporting documents you would upload by selecting document type, the document type first is commercial invoice, and we scroll until we see commercial invoice, and then you click in the box to upload. Now please know that the system will direct you to wherever your saved folder is, and then you are expected to upload the relevant details. Now, once you have selected your document type, you search your computer wherever you have saved the document, and please note that you must save your documents prior to doing this application. So your invoice, you select, and it is in PDF. You click to add. The next document, click to add new document, is your bill of lading. These are the mandatory documents here. Bill of lading. Then you click in the box to access your saved files. Open. When you're through, click to add attachment. Your last one, mandatory document, is your JACRA Import Permit. You click to add. Select JACRA Import Permit. And this is referring to the allotment that was given in the initial engagement between yourself and JACRA. Now we select, click to add, which should have been your allotment. Good. Click to open, and you click to add. Now there are persons that may have additional information, such as your product analysis. Now if you do have a product analysis, you just need to click and add your product analysis. Please note that it is not a mandatory attachment, but you may choose to add that bit of information so that your product can be assessed properly. If you do not have it, then you can proceed as per usual. So remember that your product analysis can be uploaded if you have that information. For those who do not have that information, the only mandatory documents are your commercial invoice, bill of lading, and your JACRA import allotment. When you're through entering those information, you click next. Once all the mandatory fields have been populated, then the system is going to verify, and once it is successful, you will get the option to submit the application. If you notice that the calculated amount is at 0, the reason the calculated amount is at 0 is because no cess has been calculated on the application as yet. Now, in our next step, we will look at what are the different steps that this application will go through before your release is generated. As a trader, submit your application. Your reference number will be displayed, and this reference is what you will use to refer to your document for its entire life cycle. Your next step from here will be to await the processing of this application by the JACRA officer. Once the JACRA officer has processed the application, the status will move to assessed. A status of being assessed will indicate to you that you can go ahead and make payment for your application. Thank you for watching the video. We'll go to our next video to explain how to search and view the status of your application.